Hello and welcome to my review of Drive, starring Ryan Gosling, Albert Brooks, and Carey Mulligan. Drive centers on a nameless stunt movie driver played by Ryan Gosling who leads a double life as a wheelman. When he falls in love with his neighbor, played by Carey Mulligan, but finds out that her husband, who was just in prison, is coming home, was involved in some dirty business, he goes to finish out that business and basically ends up getting thrown into a brutal but bloody conflict involving some mob money that is being sought after by Albert Brooks and Ron Perlman. Now, this is one of those movies that is just getting heaps and heaps and heaps of praise. Oh, Drive is a tour de force. It is the greatest movie of all time. It is the action movie of the decade. I'm here to tell you that, unfortunately, Drive is not that. But don't get me wrong. Drive is a good film. In fact, the main way I can define Drive is interesting. Let's start out with the performances. First off, Ryan Gosling, who's really coming into his own as a very versatile, fantastic actor, gives a more subdued yet very effective performance here. He's not the flashy, typical one-liner every 5-second action hero. In fact, he's quite the opposite. He's very quiet and emotionless almost. But when he has to be, he is just a force of brutal nature, and Gosling conveys this amazingly, with very little dialogue actually spoken. The rest of the supporting cast also give good performances. Carey Mulligan is the weakest link in the film. She's just kind of bland as the love interest. But Bryan Cranston, Albert Brooks, and Ron Perlman all deliver three very effective and different performances. Bryan Cranston plays kind of Ryan Gosling's mentor, and he is just a chameleon. I'm watching Breaking Bad right now, and just the way he changes his appearance for a role is just spectacular, and his personality changes are just incredible too. Albert Brooks, who I don't find very effective in most films, is very menacing here. And Ron Perlman, while just being Ron Perlman, can't argue with that. I also think from a filmmaking perspective, this movie is top-notch. This movie is directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. Not sure what nationality that name is, but the point is he's a great director. He previously did Bronson, which is another very strange, subversive film. And here, the best thing he does here is the tension. I don't even know how to describe it. This movie starts out very slow, but once it just explodes, there are scenes where he just builds up this tension so well through just the littlest things. Expressions on characters' faces, like whirling of leather as Ryan Gosling clenches his fist as he puts on his gloves, crackling of door locks, just little things. And then he explodes the film into violence, and he's just fantastic at building up tension and then delivering on it. Also, I personally liked his approach in the beginning of the film of developing the love story between Ryan Gosling and Carey Mulligan more through images, through projecting it through dialogue. I thought that was very interesting. With all that praise being said, there are two fatal flaws with this film. The first is that it starts out extremely slow. And I don't mind a slow-paced film if there's things really going on, like developing the characters. But like I said, while he does take the interesting approach of developing these characters through images more, I feel like he could have taken less time with that if he were to do that, because the movie just has this part in the beginning where it just drags because there's just absolutely nothing happening. The beginning of the film is great. And then, but for the beginning leading up into the middle, it just drags for a long time. The second thing is because of that, it just feels very stoic and emotionless a lot of times. I feel like he's trying to lure us in with his filmmaking more so than with his characters. And while that is an interesting approach, it's not as effective as it should have been. And even though this movie is quite intense, it could have been made even more intense if we really cared about the characters and what was going on. And I think that he really missed the boat in that respect. There's also just some rather stiff dialogue that really brings the film down. Overall, I think your enjoyment of Drive will depend greatly on what kind of audience you are. If you enjoy more art house films that rely heavier on filmmaking, you'll probably think this movie's fantastic. If you like more mainstream films that are more character-based and more about action, you might not be a fan of this. I'm more in the middle. I enjoyed parts of this film, but I was really disappointed with others. But I did think it was a solid, well-made film, and for that, I'm going to give it 3 stars out of 4. Don't drive away from this review without subscribing, and until next time, I'm Movie Kid Mike, making sure your time is worth your money.